But the work trucks, those actual workhorses, cannot be produced in the US, so they don't exist.
You have all the Japanese and coming up Chinese brands that are coming up. Even the Japanese trucks are being assembled and produced in Thailand, but they cannot even compete with the Chinese brand now coming up. They can't. Eventually you see the Chinese trucks being flooded into the market. We will
They're already
never.
here.
Yeah, we will
Eric, sorry,
never.
in Nigeria, I think the stats are now that most of the new vehicles being sold in Nigeria are actually Chinese, followed by Koreans before you get to Japanese in Nigeria, because Chinese cars are just more affordable.
Yeah, the
And the
Toyotas
tech
and
is
the
catching up.
yeah,
The tech is catching up.
yeah.
It's catching up big time, big time.
On that part where you talk about in the textile industry in the US. You see, the Trump's immigration policy has actually killed so many agriculture industry because those industries are being served by the migrant workers in the agriculture. Can you expect the Americans to go and do such job at minimum wage or below minimum wage? So don't even talk about manufacturing coming back. Your own agriculture industry, based on immigration policies that you have been deporting them back, have affected the agriculture industry and the construction industry in the US. Because most construction workers come from South America. So Trump, I think we have to go beyond Trump to see there's some kind of salvation. I would use the word because he's just doing this out of a populist of fascist kind of approach to the US as it is. He has no intention to help Main Street at all. It's all about Wall Street, and that's about it.
It's all about Wall Street. Interesting. So I mean, thank you very much, Eric, allow me for that. So in terms of this 90-day US tariff pause, before we round up this very exciting conversation, I'm thinking, yes, China has retaliated, but then, this concessions, what does that do to serve its long-term interests? And if is it a question of China waiting for US to blink first to say, okay, we've imposed our 125% back at you. We're going to leave this as it is. If you guys decide to reduce your 125%, then us as a country or as a nation, we will look to reduce it. But otherwise, we'll leave it. Would there be diplomatic talks, if not already in the background, trying to make sure that this is resolved as quickly as possible? You mentioned the volatility of the market. You mentioned what that does to prices and the common goods. Of course, we have some Chinese manufacturers also having a lot of goods in their warehouses now having to pause in terms of sending these things to the US because they're waiting to see what happens after the 90 days. China seems well prepared, like Laomi mentioned, and you mentioned as well. But what happens after the 90 days? What are the impacts if this is not resolved?
Naomi, you want to go first?
So excuse me. I feel like I'm going to talk my way into trouble at some point here. Given all
We are in trouble. It's okay. We are in trouble. It's okay.
This is two grown men.
I'm going to talk my way because there's so much going on. How you want to apply for a US visa these days, they want to see your social media handles and check. Look, in 90 days, what will happen is more market manipulation. Period. This is market manipulation. Okay. I think when Warren Buffett, I call him Grandpa Omaha, right? When Grandpa Omaha decided to exit his positions and hold cash, Warren Buffett is holding 340 billion in cash today.
340 billion
in cash. 340 billion US dollars.
No stocks.
Berkshire Hathaway is holding in cash 340 billion US dollars in cash. Okay. And the trading community I belong to, one of my friends kept saying, Warren has gone to cash. I follow what Warren does. Okay. So apart from his long-term portfolio that was all green, anything he had that was marginal, he exited to cash. Okay. And you see the market manipulation. If you watch how you can't predict from one day to the next. So on Wednesday, was it Wednesday that he announced the pause in the tariffs and the markets rallied? Yeah, I mean, you remember I said two things will happen next. Okay. If somebody bought calls that day, the market grew 5% in 2 hours. Okay. I said the retail investor wakes up and says, "Oh, the market is back," and buys calls. Said you might find out the market will not recover. That by market open the next day, market is down again. By market open, the market was down 2%. Okay. Then it was caught in a strangle. Then it fell. On Friday, markets are back again, right? There's enough time in there, and you saw all the interviews. I don't want to go into details, but you saw all the interviews where people in the government knew that there was going to be a pause in those tariffs.
Mm.
The president tweets, "Time to invest in America," and about half an hour later, he announces a pause on tariffs. Markets rebound. All that's going to happen in 90 days is more market manipulation, and I think America's already blinked first. I think that announcement that they're going to pause tariffs on. Sorry, let me take us back again. When did they announce that pause in the tariffs? It was lunchtime. When people are away from their terminals, it was lunchtime. So people dashed back to their terminals to place their trades. What do you think will happen in? So they've announced this on a Saturday deliberately. It would have done crazy things in the market yesterday. So it was announced on a Saturday to give the market time to sort of settle by Monday morning. But go and watch. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen on Monday morning. Will the markets rebound? It should rebound, right? But some people knew what was going to happen on Friday. People knew about this announcement on Friday. If you go and check unusual options activity on trading platforms, I think you're going to find that a bunch of people bought calls on Friday, just before market close on Friday. And that those guys are going to look to cash in on Monday morning.
Hmm.
And you will find that quick sell-off. People just taking their profits, banking profits and go. I think what will happen in 90 days, and I think the 90-day thing itself is just they push the can down the road, right? There'll be a lot happening. Already this pause, forgive me, but this pause in or this modification, if you please, of the tariffs to exclude electronics has already changed narrative for 90 days. It's no longer, 90 days for what now? You've already removed, and if you find out how much of American imports from China are actual electronics, mobile phones, computers, and laptops, and tablets and co. You've already taken out a huge chunk of the market of the products that you're tariffing, right? So 90 days was just they kicked the can down the road. He bought himself some time. I think that by the end of 90 days, the picture would have already changed. It's already changed today. It changed a couple of hours ago. And that I think as every day goes on, you will find that the 90-day thing will matter less and less where China is concerned. It might affect the rest of the world, but I think where China is concerned would have come to a certain head because America has already blinked. Removing those things from it that's already you blinked. So when we say who will blink first, I'm sorry, America already blinked.
Yep,
They
I agree.
blinked. You might pretend that it's a win, they blinked. Eric, what do you think?
I don't play the market, but I understand the game. Um, I think the exemption list will be extended.
Hmm.
Mainly the exemption list will be extended into more of the S&P 500. All right, that's related. S&P 500 related. In order to support the capital market, right? Wall Street. Uh, but Main Street is going to suffer still because at the end of the day they're going to face inflation because they the main thing is because they're putting a pause for 90 days to wait for as a leverage to negotiate with the rest of the world. But still, the major boogeyman is still China. The one and only boogeyman is China. But I don't know what would happen with example Canada and Mexico, and Canada cutting off their oil supply and energy supply down to the US. That's very concerning. I'm more of a Main Street person than Wall Street, because Wall Street is a game. It's a game. It's manipulative. Uh, so that's a main concern. I think eventually this thing will simmer down after 90 days. I will predict that Trump and his cronies will make enough money and decide to call it off. And 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 because they can't fight the issue of inflation if, let's say, uh, the rest of the world is ready to look for other market and start to boycott the US market. Honestly, if even the European market itself is already boycotting the US market, if this is going to go on, it's basically they are calling you. Most of them are calling Trump's bluff on the tariff. Most of them, it's like they are rather working with each other to fight this war with the US. We can sacrifice the US market. It's only 15% of the world GDP. US is only 15%. So the rest of the world will call Trump bluff, and Trump will definitely have to backpedal after 90 days. I think the Canadians are serious about what they are doing to the US. And that's scary because they are pulling off their oil supply and their LNG supply down to the US. It's like what happened to Russia towards Europe. I mean, and how Germany suffered and the industry suffered because of the LNG issue coming down from Russia. And they had to buy from US, and that was an exorbitant price. So Trump might want to avoid that after 90 days. But definitely the Chinese will never count out. They'll call a bluff.
No.
They're not
There are
backing down
there are 7 billion people outside the
outside
US.
the US. Yeah,
That's a huge market.
it's a huge
7
market.
billion people. Again, I'm going to go back to. I keep referring to Vietnam. So the US imposes these tariffs on Vietnam, and the Vietnamese come back and say, you know what, we'll do 0% tariffs. You know why? In 2024, I believe the value of exports from Vietnam to the US was $360 billion. And the reverse, exports from the US to Vietnam was 36 billion. So
10%.
10%. So Vietnam goes, you know what? Actually, that's fine. You know what? Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
That's smart.
Immediately, the US government realizes that actually tariffs cannot solve this problem. So they say, actually, we have further conditions. One, you will drop sales taxes in your country. Okay? But in the US, most US states impose a sales tax. It's a purely internal issue. Second condition, you will stop the transfer of Chinese manufacturing capacity from China to Vietnam. Wait, that is foreign direct investment to Vietnam. It's a great thing that Chinese factories are moving to our country. It's the gold
FDI.
standard. FDI. So you tell me that one, I must, first of all, limit my own internally generated revenue. I must hobble myself, my IGR for you. That's it. And then I must stop attracting FDI. So IGR and FDI, two of the fundamental principles of economics and sovereignty.
Mhm.
See,
Mm.
when we are negotiating, we can negotiate until I realize that you're being unreasonable. I'll listen to you until it becomes clear that you are being unreasonable. And once you become unreasonable, so it's like I tell people, I say, look, We entered a negotiation. You told me you liked my jacket. I gave it to you. In fact, you started with my pen. So I like your pen. I gave you my pen. Said, oh, I like your notebook. I gave you my notebook. You asked for my jacket. I gave you my jacket. You like my tie. I gave you my tie. You like my shirt. Because I want to do business with you, I give you my shirt.
Hmm.
Then you ask for my pants. Suddenly, I'm going to be naked in this room.
Hmm.
I'm now asking you, how much of my dignity do you want to take from me because you want to do business with me, sir? Then I start calculating. This guy is going to strip me naked.
Hmm.
So I draw a line somewhere because it's now a matter of survival. Because I can only go so far in trading my dignity for you. So when you ask me to limit my national sovereignty over my own territory, and that's what the rest of the world is watching. That for me is what the EU is watching. And that's what China, everybody's watching. They say, okay, how far will this guy push the small nations of the world? Well, China is not going to let you limit their IGR or their FDR or FDI, because these are fundamental indices in economic survival of your country. So when you're now beginning to, you act like a bully, and I think there's a lot of hubris here when you forget that you're dealing with the rest of the world. There are 7 billion people outside your borders. You might be the biggest economy in the world, but you're not bigger than the amalgamation of all the other economies combined. You're not. So there comes a
Absolutely.
point where I had to bite the bullet and realize this guy doesn't want to dance or doesn't want to play fair, doesn't want to play nice. You know what? I'm going to leave his sandbox and go and play somewhere else because I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to let you sell my children into slavery because I want to do business with you. So it's no longer about tariffs alone. And Vietnam, for me, is a perfect example that this is no longer about tariffs. This is now about sovereignty. Or what do you guys think?
Can I add? I mean, I think Vietnam, because of Vietnam does not import a lot of the US product as much as. I think the Chinese is a very different strategy versus Vietnam because majority, everybody is targeting the Chinese market. And we need the Chinese market to consume. And this is why the Chinese will play this poker game till kingdom come. Because the rest of the world can't consume. The smaller countries cannot consume as much as China from the US. So there will be still a major struggle between the Chinese and the US. Whereas the rest of the world will say, fine, if you want to implement your tariff, like what you say, Lumi, go ahead. It's business as usual. At the end of the day, uh, probably the orders will go down for a while, but eventually it will come back up when the consumer acclimatized to the price change and the added tariff. Uh, yeah, it's just I'm concerned that uh, the smaller businesses in the US will start to collapse because of the drop in demand from the consumers based on the additional tariff. Yeah, so that's my take on this. Thank you, guys.
I also think the US is overplaying its hand. Yes, the US, I mean, look, what does the US actually export to China? How do you really, really balance this trade surplus? Okay. China is not going to buy American cars. They're too big, too inefficient. Okay. So a lot of agriculture, a lot of pork and grains and
Yes.
coal.
But
But
also aerospace technology and aircraft. So
so
Boeing, they
but
do a lot of business, yeah, that way.
the thing is, so look at the example of Biden and superconductors and the US, okay, and China. When uh, Joe Biden imposed limits on how much of on superconductors and whatever it is, the Chinese have now developed and which affected the Android OS that
Mhm.
was being, I mean,
Mm,
that's owned by Google and co. What did the Chinese do? Huawei have now developed their own OS, which is by all we've seen the demos, which is by all accounts far, far more advanced than either the Apple iOS or Google's Android. When you force people to innovate, and what do we say about invention? We say necessity is the mother of invention, right? So when you force the Chinese, when you exempt them from things that they require, that they need, they're forced to go elsewhere to look for to source what they want. So the US exports pork to China, but there are Chinese farmers outside the US now. Why isn't China setting up pork farms in Nigeria? Think
They can
about
do
it.
it tomorrow. They can do it tomorrow
They'll do. Yeah,
if they want.
We have the land. We have the
They are
yeah,
already doing
yeah.
it. There are
We have the
actually
land.
farms
Yes.
in Nigeria
We
now.
have the weather. We
They're
have the
owned.
land. We have
Yep.
the machinery. We have the people.
So
Even if we
if
don't have the
you
machinery, we can bring
overplay
them in.
your hand,
The alternatives.
you're forcing the other guy to look for alternatives. When you
Yeah.
overprice yourself, when hubris sets into, I say, you know what? Do I really, really need this guy? Maybe I've been doing business because of reciprocity. And look, I agree that on some level, there are valid reasons. Look, a broken clock is right twice a day. They will have valid concerns. The US will have valid concerns about US Chinese trade practices and whatever it is. But I don't think this is a way to solve the problem. I don't think wrecking the global trade structure, which the US was instrumental in developing. Don't forget that without the US, there probably wouldn't be a WTO in the first place. So when you now take all those rules and you throw them out the window, the rules that you helped develop, that you are actually one of the big major champions of, if you now destroy that system because the rules-based international trade system that you helped develop, if you now destroy it because of your hubris, then how do you rebuild trust? How do you get the world back to the negotiating table? It's almost like a couple, husband and wife, where one party keeps saying, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. And the other party keeps saying, please, I want to make this work. I want to make this work, please. And then one day you say, I'm tired, I'm done here. And the other guy says, you know what, me too, I'm tired. Me too, I'm tired, I'm done too. At that point, you have a stalemate. Who's going to back down first? And like you said, Eric, I agree with you. It's not China. It's not China. The Chinese have alternatives. I mean, Tesla was the market leader in EVs a decade ago, right? BYD is eating their lunch right now.
You know what's the
Eating their lunch.
Rumi,
I've been
you know
seeing
what's the
quite a
beauty?
lot of BYDs in the UK as well. Allow me.
No, the beauty is the integrity between the West and the East. I use the word integrity. Why? Tesla overpromised and underdelivered most of their stuff up to today. Even the Cybertruck has been recalled many times. Chinese maintain their integrity. They underpromise and they over-deliver. Look at their technology. Look at their EVs. Come on, it's out of the world.
Hmm.
I was shocked. I was in camp. I mean, this is just a personal experience. I sat in a Denzer D9 done by BYD. Wow. It is amazing technology, luxurious, and it costs half the price.
Costs. There we go.
Effectively,
And why
it's the
are
same quality for less than half the price. In fact, better quality for half the
no
price.
half the price? And they are prepared to market this to the rest of the world. They don't need the US market. The rest of the world is hungry to buy that product because it's half the price, better quality. They under promise and over deliver. Tesla is facing a lot of licensing issues. Why is Elon Musk part of this administration? There's a lot of legality issues that he's facing. So there's too much corruption going on, and we can't fix that for the US.
Interesting.
You know what I would like to do? Our next conversation must be on Elon Musk and Tesla. Not in this conversation, but you
Eric,
know,
Eric, you've kind of
It
like
will be,
segued into our next topic
yeah, that's our next topic. And you know what?
unknowingly.
We will have a couple of other people in the room. I know a couple of guys who own Teslas who should be in this conversation, you know,
Oh,
who
interesting.
offer their
That would be
color,
great.
who are, yeah, a couple of my friends who are big fans of Elon Musk or who I mean own Teslas. And I don't want to sort of hint as to their positions, right? But it would
Yes,
be great to have that conversation. And I think that will be our next chat.
That would
absolutely.
be
To all of
interesting.
everyone watching us, to everyone watching us, we want to say we're two grown men. Please, if you're watching this video, please give us a like. Please leave your comments below, and please share this content with anyone who might like us, who might like to watch it. Please, the conversation continues. But and if you want to be a part of this show, Eric, our brother Eric, has joined us from Singapore, and is offering us insights. That could be you, because we know everyone has an opinion. If you'd like to be a part of this show, please send us an email at twogrownmen@gmail.com. We're two grown men on Instagram. We're two grown men on Twitter X.
Absolutely. And that sort of like brings us to the end of this conversation today. I just wanted to say, yeah, huge thank you to Eric for shedding light on China's perspective and his perspective, rather, in this complex trade dynamics going on. Your insights were incredibly valuable and it helped us to understand, and the viewers as well, the nuances behind the headlines. So, like Laomi said to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you found today's discussion insightful, don't forget to give us a like, put a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe and share this on all social media platforms with anyone curious about global affairs. Until next time, stay informed and keep questioning the world around you. Last thoughts, Laomi and Eric, before we round up.
I'll let Eric go first. Eric, let's hear from you.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. I think I've learned a lot from Naomi. Naomi, you're more Chinese than me. Um, you're down with the Chinese.
Shishe.
No, no. I enjoyed the experiences that you had dealing in China. That's very encouraging.
Hmm.
And yeah, a lot. I think there's a lot of nuance that we need to share along
Mhm.
the way, and let's see where we can go. I think this series will be interesting. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Shishe. Thank you very much,
All
Eric.
right.
It's been a great conversation. It was just I learned quite a bit from you today. Um, it's one thing to read the textbooks, but when people who have an understanding of the issues and are able to talk, you can interact with them. So you watch a talking head on TV, they're talking on TV, you can't interact, you can't query their observations. But when somebody who is able to see it and it's clear that you have a deep interest in the issues. So I thank you very much for teaching me, for educating my mind today. Thank you for sharing your insights. Yemi, take it away,
Uh,
man. It's amazing day.
Yes,
Amazing. Eric,
absolutely.
you have to come back.
Yeah,
Let me not
he
go
has to come
Nigerian
back.
on you.
This
You
this
have
is
to come back. Oh, if you don't
this is an
come
yeah.
back,
open
we will
invitation.
drag you. We will drag you back
Lobe,
here.
Lobe, let me ask you a question. In Clubhouse, right, a lot of people mistook me as a Nigerian because they say I speak like a Nigerian, and and they have some of them in a kind way have given me a Nigerian name. They call me
What is it?
Eri Chuku, Eri Chuku.
Erichuku.
Yep.
So
Erichuku, yes,
so
yes, yes.
Erichuku.
One
so
name,
yeah,
one name Erichuku.
One name, one name.
One came
okay,
Erichuku. One means my brother in Igbo. So
okay,
one name is my man in Igbo.
Yes.
And Igbo is a language
Okay.
of Igbo. Igbo is a
Hmm.
language of the
people, yeah,
southeast of Nigeria. The Igbos are the most enterprising, they're the most commerce-minded people in probably the most commerce-minded Africans in the world, I think.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
they when you go to China, there are parts of China in Guangzhou, when you go to Sanyuali, you'll find
mm-hmm.
malls
The
where just
more Igbo
I mean
guys,
It's just Igbo
populated
men, yeah.
mostly by
Yeah.
Igbo traders.
Igbo men and
Okay.
women, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Me and I are Ijebu. Well, I'm Ijebu. So we're spiritually Igbo. You,
Yes.
all right? Yes, you are one name. One name is my man. So you're one name Erichuku. You're also Nwokem Erichuku. Nwokem is my brother. So one name is
Hmm.
my man,
thank you, my
Nwokem is my
brother.
brother. So One name who came
Okay.
Erichuku. As we
And I'm
say
gonna
All
give
right.
you, I'm gonna give you,
Dalu.
and I'm gonna give you a new one. Eric
Uh,
Olua. Eric Olua.
Ulua.
Oluwa Eric.
Olua
Oluwa
Eric.
Eric. Yes.
Yes.
Ulua. What's Ulua? What does it mean?
Maybe
But
so
thank you so
actually
much. I learned,
Oluwa means Lord. Yeah, me sorry. Oluwa means
yes,
Lord.
Lord.
So is Oluwa Eric is Lord Eric.
Yeah, Lord Eric. Yeah.
Oh,
Lord Eric.
thank you,
Olua
gentlemen,
Eric.
for too much. You're
Thank you
giving me too much
so much.
credit. Too much credit. Too much credit. Yeah. But
Thank you
anyway,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you
I've
all.
got a lot to learn from your perspective, especially yeah, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
all.
much. Thank you. Yemi.
Okay.
Odaro.
Okay.
Take care.
Gotta go. Bye.